What's up, YouTube? Hope you're fantastic today. Um, Wanted to come on here and give you a thought experiment, really. So, what is the meaning of life? It's a big question. Why are we here? Interesting. You've probably considered this. Um, but what if we just take ourselves out of the equation? What if we just remove humanity from the consideration? So we're left with, what are we left with? Well, we're left with plants and animals and, nature at large. And when we look at nature in and of itself, I would argue that it's here to grow, to self express. Take this plant, for example, a little plant. That plant it grows, it just grows. It changes its expression. It has more and more growth. It gains height and girth and so on and so forth. It grows. And in its growth, it self-expresses. The very fact that it is growing ensures its self-expression. And so its self-expression changes as it grows. It self-expresses more and more of what it is at its core. The oak tree starts as a seed and begins to grow. And in its growth, self-expresses, and it becomes a sapling and grows a little more, becomes a small tree, and over time becomes an oak tree. And so if we turn to the natural world, it seems pretty evident that the purpose is growth. And through growth, self-expression. So what happens if we put humanity back into the fold? Well, I would argue, and I am arguing, that it doesn't change, which means that we are here to grow and self-express. Now, we differ in some ways from nature at large. Our physical maturation does not take the entirety of our life cycle. We peter out, or in our teen years, and our brain stops developing at around 25. That doesn't mean that we continue. That doesn't mean that we're fixed. We continue to grow inwardly, to change and evolve, and as we do, self-express. But we differ from nature in another key way. And that's this. We have this thing inside us, this brain, this thinking mechanism that thinks. And it's really rooted in survival. It's here to keep us safe, to ensure our safety, not ensure our growth and self-expression. So now, internally, humans have this dichotomy where on one hand we can be self-expressing and growing, and on the other hand, it's a continuum. We can feel stuck and stagnant. And that feeling arises when we are called for something different, something more, something unusual, something out of our norm, out of our patterns. That's the call to growth. And most of us don't hear it because we're busy listening to the voice in our head, which is designed to keep us small. And so if we were trees, we would have these self-imposed limitations, these self-imposed barriers that stop our growth and thereby stop our self-expression. And now we feel stuck. And these patterns of thought, belief, of self-concept create patterns of behavior, and we get stuck in them. That's why we say things like, oh, I'm feeling stuck in a rut. My life just isn't moving. Blah, 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 blah. And so the more that we connect with the voice in our head, the more we disconnect from the very force of life itself, the force that ensures and propels this growth. And that's what it is to be human. uh, so the question becomes, well, what do we do? First of all, do you even agree with me? Because don't just take my word for it. What do you think? My guess is that you have a yearning inside. You're being called for something, being called to try something new, something that scares not you, something that scares this. And that's not one and the same. You can see that thing. You can see this. So you are not that thing. So you are called. You're being called forward in some way, called into something new, and that's scary. That's scary here. So this will come up with all these stories, all these reasons, all these limitations why you shouldn't, and why maybe you can't, why it thinks you can't take those steps forward. It could be leaving a job, leaving a relationship, starting a business, letting a business go, any change. Having, I don't know, a kid, moving, even starting an exercise routine. Any change, big or small, is threatening to the brain. So we need to know this. Now, threatening to the brain, when I say brain, I also mean the voice in our head. Okay, now we can see this. So again, what do we do? Well, understand that that's what your brain's there for. That's what the voice in your head's there for. It's not there to urge you forward, to ensure your growth and self-expression. It's there to keep you self-expressing in the same way that you've been, because anything new is scary. Don't listen. You don't have to listen. You can follow the call here. And I gently suggest you try. Practice. Be a little bit uncomfortable, because it will be uncomfortable. But as you do, you will begin to self-express. And you will begin to grow. And as your patterns change, your thought patterns, your patterns of belief, the very notion of who you think you are, well, your behaviors will change. And so your results will change, and your world will start to change. And does it happen all at once? No. Of course it doesn't happen all at once. This thing's been growing for like a year. It's hardly grown at all, but guess what? It's grown. It takes time. But only if you know you, and only if you follow the call. So this is an invitation to follow your joy and stop following the voice in your head. Let me know if this is helpful. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and have a beautiful weekend. I'm stopping this stream.